Now let's take a look at some indicators. Okay, we have a number of indicators here. The moving average, you can just turn it on by doing that. And there it is. Okay. You can change the setting over here. You can use simple or exponential. And change the length. Just like that. You can also, if you have a certain length that you like, that you prefer, you can set it as your default. Okay. So there's the moving average. All the other indicators work roughly the same, except that each one has settings appropriate to it. So the Bollinger Bands have Bollinger Bands. Now, in Chart Tool, Bollinger Bands allow you to set two sets of constants, an outer set and an inner set. Let's take the outer set. Okay, the outer set's a good place. Let's take the inner set and move it in a little bit. Okay, so we have our constants positioned in a good place. Let's have a look at the chart. What this gave us was a chart with a couple of channels, and you can see there's a lower channel here and an upper channel here, and this can be really very useful for observing trend behavior. As you can see, the market works its way up in this trend, and the inside constant becomes a support line and a resistance in the lower channel. If you don't like the channels, you can turn them off by just clicking match. Okay, and then you can get what is, and then you can turn the moving average on as well, and that'll give you a more traditional display. But the channels are also useful, and a slightly novel way to use the Bollinger Bands. Now, there's something called a cumulative moving average. This is a really great indicator. This is a moving average that, unlike others, is not indefinite to the left and to the right. It has a starting point on the left, and you set that starting point using the needle button right here. So I will set it right there at the low, and this is really good at finding supports, and also really good at finding resistance. If we move it up here, it does a great job of finding resistance and telling us what's going on. It's a tool I'm extremely fond of. Okay, now if you've got it in a place that you like, you can freeze the position, and that way you can move the needle button without repositioning it. Something you might want to do. Okay. So this tells us that there's a support area along in here, and that is true. So we've looked at the cumulative moving average. We've got a couple of oscillators here, MACD and stochastic, and they have their settings. The settings are fairly obvious, and they show up at the bottom down here. Okay, great. Now this is an index, it's the S&P, but on stocks there's also a volume indicator that you can use. It just doesn't happen to show up in this case. Now, let's say we've created a chart that we like. Let's go back. Let's say I just want to put a line here and say, this is a line that I want to remember and think about. Right here. Okay. Good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this chart. I can write a chart description over here. I can decide whether or not to let others view the chart. I'm going to keep it private for the moment. And then I go ahead and save it. Now you can see up here, the chart will be named by the server. You don't name your own charts. The server names them. And that avoids any conflict of naming. Okay, I have to actually click the button. There you go. Now once you've saved a chart, the name will appear in the lower left. And the way you know a chart has actually been saved is that the name appears in the lower left. And if we look at our saved charts, load saved charts, there it is. That's the chart we just saved. And there's a list of other charts that I've saved under this account here in my charts. Over here in public, you can see charts that other people have saved and allowed to be public. Okay. Okay. Now, you see here the picture of the chart in its last configuration. If I were to go and make a significant change, such as move a line, okay, that automatically gets saved on the server. So now if I check, that gets saved right away. There's an automatic syncing whenever a significant change happens. If I add an indicator, that also will automatically get saved on the server. So your charts are automatically kept in sync with the server at all times, at least when you do something major. If you just scroll the chart, that won't trigger a save. All right. Now if you want to email the chart to a friend, you can click right there. And you'll get an email with a picture of the chart embedded and some links. This link right here will, if your friend has Chart Tool on their iPhone or iPod, it will actually open Chart Tool, your chart, in their iPod. And that's a great way to share a chart that isn't public. Remember, when you saved a chart, you could choose whether or not to make it public. If you don't make it public, the way you can share a chart with somebody in particular is by mailing it to them. And that way they can click on this link and open it in their version of Chart Tool. If you click on this link, you can download Chart Tool, you can buy it from the App Store, just in case they don't already have it. Now let's get a new chart. Okay. Stocks, indices, recents, and these are things I've looked at recently, and searches. If I go into indices and type bank, and search for that, I'll get, well, there's only one thing. Now I can save that search, okay, and I now have a saved search that I can run and recreate that. This is useful. This is useful over here. It's even more useful when we look at loading saved charts, because what I can do is I can search for people. Let's search for this person, VARDUSH. Okay, this person saved a lot of charts. Okay, VARDUSH. And now I've got a list of all the charts that this person has saved and allowed to be public. And I can save that by going to the bottom of the screen. Okay. And I can run that search now anytime I want, which is a great way to follow people. If there's somebody whose charts you like, that's a very effective way to follow them. Now let's go back to loading a new chart. Let's say I want to look at anything with the word micro in it. I have no idea what this is. Now we can choose daily, weekly, monthly, or quarterly. Let's look at daily. All right. So what have we got? If we click here, we'll see it's Hittite Microwave Corp. Okay, that's kind of a fun name. And this is kind of a fun chart. It's got some interesting features. Okay, we can change from candlesticks to bar style. And as we get closer, as we zoom in, you can see the bars individually. And you can also go to line style, which is probably the best way if you're looking at a lot of data all at once. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you enjoy Chart Tool.